I'm Mark Caro, and welcome to episode 214 of Caropop. If you'd like to throw us some support and help keep this thing going, please go to caropop.com. This week's guest is one of our favorite singer-songwriters and conversationalists, Graham Parker. He spoke with us for a lively Caropop two-parter in early 2023, and now he's back to dig into his origin story. That tale is covered in fascinating detail in Jay Nachman's new book, Graham Parker's Howlin Wind. It has been said that musical artists have a lifetime to create their first albums and 6 months to come up with the second one. That literally was the case with Parker. Howlin Wind, one of the great debut albums, came out in April 1976, more than a year before the Sex Pistols' debut. It applies Parker's punkish snarl to a swinging melange of R&B, rock and roll, and reggae influences. And yeah, I realize that swinging melange is a mixed metaphor, but if you know the album, you get it. The acclaimed follow-up, Heat Treatment, arrived in October 1976, a mere 6 months later. That one was produced by Mutt Lange after Nick Lowe sat in the producer's chair for Howlin Wind. The band on both albums and the three that followed was the Rumour. It included guitarist and previous Caropop guest Brinsley Schwarz and keyboardist Bob Andrews, who both were in the band Brinsley Schwarz with Lowe. Guitarist Martin Belmont, who worked as a roadie for Brinsley Schwarz before forming Ducks Deluxe, and the rhythm section of drummer and previous Caropop guest Steve Goulding and bassist Andrew Bodnar, who'd played together in several bands, including Bon Temps Roulé. Parker's manager and previous Caropop guest Dave Robinson had the idea to connect this exciting singer-songwriter with the Rumour. Although he became associated with pub rock, a term he hates, Parker hadn't even been playing in a band at that point. He was a solo artist who had done a lot and gone through many phases. Long-haired and short-haired, mod, ska, soul, psychedelic, English pastoral, folk, and confessional singer-songwriter. Parker also worked in factories and at a gas station. Throughout everything, he wrote and wrote and wrote. How did he write? What was the first song he considered a keeper? How many songs had he written before he came up with one that made the cut for Howlin Wind? How important were experimentation and dead ends? After Parker and the Rumour teamed up, was he writing with the band in mind? How much did the musicians work out the arrangements? Would Parker consider doing what Squeeze is currently doing, making new recordings of very old songs? With the tour and live album on the way, Parker also takes us into the present and the economic realities of touring, recording, and releasing music. I love this portrait of an artist as a young man, and I suspect you will too. Please enjoy this Caropop conversation with Graham Parker. Graham Parker's Howlin Wind, written by Jay Nachman with you guys, and Jay is a fantastic guy. Did he approach you about kind of revisiting your past this way, or how did this come about?
Oh, yeah. It was not my idea at all. Not my job to come up with ideas like that. That's for someone else. And I thought, well, the first album, suddenly you've got a career for yourself and you make an album and it turns out pretty good. So I said, yeah, I'd got a great idea. Go for it. Not realizing, of course, quite how much tedium there would be for me doing endless interviews. I mean, I feel like I'm very old now, but and I've said a lot about this in interviews. My past, where I came from, growing up surrounded by the British Army and all these kind of things, and my obviously influences to my music. I've said it all, but it's all in different interviews, chopped around the place, and they get it wrong. So this, I could Jay would send me what he'd been writing, and I could say, no, you got that bit wrong. That's not it. And so we could correct it and make it as accurate as possible. And all the other Rumour guys got involved. We now have, there was Andrew Bodnar has recently passed away, and
I saw that.
Bob Andrews before him. So it was nice that they were there to comment on this and get their interviews done with Jay. It's a good thing. And Jay has done a fantastic job, so I'm just supporting away here. I'm supporting it,
So how is it for you looking back in such detail on this period? Like, did you learn anything from all of it?
Well, did I learn anything? No, I don't think so. I learned that there's a lot more to my life that that could have gone in, part two, I suppose, when we'll get the heat treatment or something. But these were the most sort of obvious points that came to mind when we were talking, and a lot of it comes from what Jay's questions were. But it did, it kind of brought back the thrill of it to me, being a guy who worked in factories and all kinds of other jobs like that at menial, working class, and working in a gas station around the corner from my parents at the time, and also in the afternoon doing cleaning jobs, new houses and stuff for
Right.
a company. I was doing that. And then suddenly I had a record deal. It was very weird to say it to people. Well, I've just got a record deal, and they look, from where I come from, they looked at me like, what does that mean? How is that possible? That's for other people, to achieve that. But people who knew I was quite good had listened to me and thought there was something going on that might happen one day. So it's very good to record that, to feel that excitement about things. From that period for me. It never goes away, that. It's good.
One of the many fascinating things is, you're someone who you were also working in a gloves factory and a metal pressing plant and all of this, but you also had this belief in your ability to do music. And like there's one, I was just, checking the quote where you said, it was always there, even when I wasn't playing, the feeling that I had something. At what point did you sort of get that sense of like, no matter how many of these other jobs you were going to take, that you had this calling?
Yeah, it was starting to brew around the 1971 to around there. I was just writing and writing and writing and throwing it away. And there was a few signs of life there that I thought, well, that's something that I'm taking. I was going back into older styles from my youth, childhood even. And but it wasn't until, I suppose, as I say in the book, I think I wrote probably Back to School Days was probably the one where I thought, I've just grabbed hold of something really old and people aren't doing this.
Yeah.
It was, very much progressive rock was still the game, and they were in the charts, all those acts, and it was getting pretty flatulent and mundane by that time. I think by the time Bowie came along with Ziggy Stardust, and Tyrannosaurus Rex became T-Rex and started playing 3.5-minute pop songs that, they started to boogie. People was coming out of the psychedelic progressive scene, and instead of always looking inwards, maybe it's time to dance now, and celebrate some 3.5-minute multi-influence pop songs.
Right.
So they were a good sign, very inspiring. All that was actually. I seemed to be grabbing hold of something, and I started to get a bit excited. And I thought, nobody's sounding quite like me, and as these other people don't sound like other people, but you know what they're doing. You know the music. As a musician, you pick up bits and you say, "Oh, I know where he's coming from on this one, where Bowie's coming from with a certain song." Sometimes I hardly play guitar at all. There was certainly many times before, leading into 1976, when I wasn't really concentrating on it, but I still had this feeling. And, after I'd done my time, second big trip away from home, bombing it around Europe and going to Morocco and then getting a job in Gibraltar, all I thought I would ever do was do the same thing, go back the long way, overland, wherever, hitching or trains or whatever I could do to get back to England, when I thought my time was done in Morocco and Gibraltar. And I was writing, and I knew I could feel something brewing there. And I just took my first plane flight ever from Gibraltar, which didn't cost a lot those days. I was working on the docks there, but, it didn't cost a lot to get a ticket, fly back to the UK. I did that, went to live with my parents, and I made a vow to myself to never travel again unless I get paid for it as a professional musician. And as I say, it was an entirely rash idea, but at least it gave me a focal point, a centralized point to work from. And if it didn't work out, I don't think I'd have been, too upset. I'd have just carried on with my life, because I also knew it was going to be very hard to pull this off. I knew everything about it would be hard, and I'd have to get really, really good. So it became second nature to me. And I achieved that very, very quickly. Really, when I had a record deal, I was green. I hadn't played in bands. I hadn't had bananas thrown at me and tomatoes. I hadn't done the stuff that you're supposed to do. I had
Right.
nothing but bits and pieces of, little sort of folk club appearance here and there on singers' night, and stuff like that. But I thought, by the time I'd got to that stage where I didn't mind going to a folk club and with a guitar in the back and getting out and playing a song before the folk artist du jour was coming on stage, the one with the name, or, I thought, I'm standing pretty good. Some people are coming up to me and saying, they like that. That's good. It's different, And someone said to me, well, I suppose David Bowie had to start like that, didn't he? And I thought, well, that's encouraging. This guy's talking about me sounding a bit like Bowie. By then, I might have been copping a bit of that as well, just before my career began. But I had to weed it all out in the end and get down to what was the best thing for me, and something that was original, even though it was based on past things. Pop music is just an endless regurgitation anyway. That's all it is. We're talking about 3.5 chords and a prayer. You're not talking about Mozart here. You're not talking, it's what it is.
Yeah, but it's funny though, because you say that it happened relatively quickly for you, but I mean, reading the book, you sort of see just how much it took for you to get to the point where it was quickly. And I loved even just the descriptions of like your hair keeps getting longer because you're in your psychedelic freak stage, and then shorter, and then it's longer again, and then shorter. And you're into the Incredible String Band and Pink Floyd after you were into Otis Redding, which was after you were into the Beatles. And then you were into, James Taylor and, John Prine. I mean, did you have to go through all of those phases to become what you became?
Oh, but yeah, I think I probably did. I think every one of them was useful. Every one of them was useful to get this rounded knowledge that was just residing inside of me, that could be used and could come out in songs in various shape and form and various bits and pieces of these influences. I mean, I know they're there in all kinds of stuff, all kinds of songs that other people would just hear one thing probably, but not to me. I'm a multi-influence pop song writer is what I would call myself.
Sure.
And most are. There's a great deal of people are. I'd never heard Velvet Underground and Lou Reed. I'd seen the names and thought it was a lot of pretentious art music, probably Andy Warhol and all that. I'd seen his films, some of his films when I was younger. They were kind of hit. His films like Flesh and all that. And I'd read the Lou, but I never, until it was David Bowie talking about him, and then him and Mick Ronson, the guitarist in the Spiders from Mars,
right?
Who basically produced that Lou Reed album Transformer. And I heard Walk on the Wild Side, immediately had to buy it. Then I bought the Andy Warhol artwork with the banana on, the Velvet Underground with Nico.
Right,
that had come out years before.
Yeah,
that had
67.
come out years before. That had come out years before. But that was important. That helped me out as well, I think, in some ways. Like how they, Nico reinventing pop music in this totally different sort of attitude and framework. All of these things are important and help put me on the right track. So yes, it did happen relatively quickly, but after I'd done all the donkey work, I'd been, I'd been in the trenches, writing and learning and listening, being overwhelmed with all kinds of brilliant music of all kinds, and also dipping back into the past and discovering the staple singers who I missed back in the day. I guess they were around longer than I knew. That record came out with I'll Take You There on it, and I had to get that album. And of course, I'd be re-listening to Otis Redding again and the Four Tops. And I'd listen to the Sparks album, Woofer in Tweeter's Clothing. I love that record to pieces. And I was listening to all that huge variety, as well as Busby Berkeley, Harry Warren and Al Rubin songs. And I bought an album of that stuff, Hooray for Hollywood and all that.
Right. Danny Kaye, it says that you love this Danny Kaye song, Inchworm. Oh,
what a song. It's so pretty and so bizarre. Who writes a song about a larval form and makes it sound like a beautiful love song? It's a caterpillar, That's what he's talking about. That's pretty clever. Yeah, and other things Danny Kaye did were great as well. Didn't he do the King is in the Altogether? Didn't he do that one as
That
well?
sounds right.
I think that's a Danny Kaye. Oh, geez, there was some just all that stuff I heard in childhood. It never went away.
There's so many musicians who, it's like they sort of have to pick their lane or pick their club that they're in. Like we're a mod or a rocker or we're this or that. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like one of the things that distinguished you is that you were just open to so much different music, and you weren't sort of like pinning your identity on, well, I have to reject this in order to listen to this. You were listening to all of it.
Well, there was a certain amount of tribalism at various points. When I was in a Moddy Boy, which was post-mod, it was more like
the mods versus the moddies I read about. I'd love to know what the moddies are.
No, it was the mods versus the rockers in the 60s there with the mods had the Lambrettas and the Vestas, and the rockers, who we called the greasers, had motorbikes. And that was a little before my time, apart from being in school and having the doing the haircut where you backcomb it like Rod Stewart. You know.
Yeah, they asked Ringo, are you a mod or a rocker? And he said, I'm a mocker.
I'm a mocker, yeah, yes, good. He's a genius, with comedic genius, man. So I was tribal to a certain point, but the thing is, being a musician, I suppose, maybe, even without being a musician per se, if I heard a Dylan track on the radio, I knew how good he was, even when I was in the midst of being a crew cut kid and going to discos, as they were called even then, dancing and listening to ska and soul and Motown. If I heard Dylan on the radio, even friends of mine who were also would say, that's great. And there were two of us listening to I Threw It All Away on the radio. It was like, we knew it was good. Yeah. So the tribalism was there, but I guess the musician in me was also going to stay open and know what was good when I heard it. But the fashion statement was kind of all encompassing, very useful thing.
What was the first song that you wrote?
Oh, the first song I wrote, I was 12 or 13 when the Beatles came out, and I put this pretend group together, as I call it, a dress-up group, called Deep Cut 3, and then we were the Black Rockers. There's a photograph in the book.
Yeah, no, it's great. You guys all have your bowl haircuts, your Beatle
Yeah, we got
haircuts.
The whole thing. Managed to find Cuban heels at the age of 13. And how did you do that? I don't know. Black jeans. We couldn't play. We just couldn't play. That's another thing that gets mixed up in interviews. If I mentioned that in the past, it was Parker had several failed pub rock bands. No, they were dress-up bands. They weren't real. I was 13.
When you were a little kid.
No, I was 12. You couldn't get in a pub then at that age. Anyway, so the first song was about then. Yes, it was called I Want You Back. And it went, yeah, well, you went away and I was so sorrowful. Won't you come back? Ooh, won't you come back? I didn't know what harmonies were, but you can hear them on there. Won't you come back? It was the Beatles,
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I still remember it. I think it was good. But I don't know whether I finished it. Another one I wrote was a rip-off of Hoochie Coochie Man. And I'd heard it. Who was that group? Oh my God, I forget some English group, pretty hokey they were. But I had the single for some reason, Dave Berry and the Cruisers.
Okay.
He had a whole shtick where he'd be behind the curtain when he made his entrance and was doing all this weird sort of spooky Eastern stuff, and then he'd come out.
Yeah, I miss those guys.
You miss those, yeah. But he did, I think it was a Hoochie Coochie Man as a B-side, and I thought, well, nobody's heard this. Nobody listens to B-side. So I ripped it off and said to one of my friends in this dress-up group, it was the Black Rockers, here, I've written this one. And he said, that's Hoochie Coochie Man. He caught me out. He caught me out stealing it wholesale. I don't know what it was called or what the lyric was called, but I was so embarrassed I threw it out, never looked at it again.
So it had different lyrics, but it was Hoochie Coochie Man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I Want You Back was like the Beatles, but it was pretty unique. It's it was his own song there.
Later, you covered the Jackson 5's I Want You Back, as I recall.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was just me and the Rumour. I just suggested it. I thought, wow, if I can do this live. I just heard it on the radio one day because I'd heard it way back in the past. And I said to the Rumour, can we do this? Can you learn this? And they were like all over it, like a cheap suit. Yes, please. And so we would just add it to stage shows and then just decided to throw it down and record it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And to go back to, writing these songs, I think there are people who have sort of this unrealistic idea of how you become an artist, which is like, I need to be totally, I'm unique and no one else is like me. When really, so many songwriters, it's like you become great by sort of writing like what you know, and then you sort of find your own voice after you've been doing that. But, the Beatles were obviously trying to sound like, Little Richard and Chuck Berry and, the Rolling Stones and all of them. And so kind of taking those influences, but then having so many of them and then finding your own voice, it seems like what the actual path is to being an individual artist.
Yeah, it is really. And unless if you're not a writer, then you're doing cover versions. You can take a style and, some very, very good groups and musicians who don't write a great deal. When they do, it doesn't work. So they do a lot of covers in a particular style, but that would totally limit me to do that, really. It wouldn't be, if you're spitting songs out at a rate of knots, you're going to, at a high rate. I realised I am a songwriter first and furious, singer-songwriter. That's what I am first. That's the first thing I am, and then I got the record deal, and I had to become a performer quickly. That was a bit of a shock.
Right. Well, because you've been performing, but it seems like in these very informal sort of settings, as opposed to on the stage with a professional setup and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and with a band for that matter.
That was exactly. That was intimidating. But I was up for the game. I was so impressed with my own songs. And when a manager was as well, and then one played on the radio, on a London radio, and a record company guy calls up and says, I want to sign that guy. And then Dave Robinson, my manager, has got this bunch of musicians, and they hear it and say, yeah, all right, let's give that a go. I mean, I was definitely full of confidence that I could pull off the stage thing. It was hard. I mean, it was nerve-wracking, but that's why I just went up there and commanded the stage as much as I could. I just belted it out and said, I own this thing. I own this room. It took a while, about 6 months to a year for that to really kick in, when I realized I should really push the live act thing, put the guitar down more, start strutting around the stage. Everybody's fantasizes about being Mick Jagger or Keith Richards. Right. So I'll do the Mick Jagger bit as well.
Do the front man.
Yeah, I'll be the front man. I'll be pointing up at the sky and shit like that, and getting everyone involved. And after by the second year of my career, I was kind of fully on board with trying to be someone who looked like something on stage and not sort of hide behind the guitar so much.
Again, it sounds like you had a really good sense of your own kind of value and a distinctiveness as a songwriter, as a future performer, that there was something there and you were confident about it. How important is it still to get that outside affirmation where you finally get your Dave Robinson or whoever it is to say, hey, you know what? This vision you have of yourself, I agree.
Oh, yeah. Well, as Dave said in the documentary that came out years back, Graham always had his own version of it. We were just like the actors in his movie. And it was like that, There were musicians who played with me just leading up to my career. They did it for nothing because they heard the music, liked it, and realized I was a decent guy. I wasn't an idiot or anything, I was serious and I was decent with people, and they were decent with me. But as soon as I got the Rumour, I forgot most of the names that have all come up in the book of all these people who did bits and pieces with me before my career kicked off, and I left people in the dust a bit. Without thinking of it, because it was at that point, I think at some point it had to be all about me. It had to be all about me, because it was very easy to chicken out. It's very easy to take the easy way out and say, I'm not made for this. No, I want to go back and work in a factory or something and get married and do what all your aunties wanted you to do in the first place. Get married as quickly as possible so that your life has been nullified. Really? Yeah, that's it. You can't get into trouble now. You got married. But no, I'd rather go out and get into trouble. Thanks very much.
Did you have moments before, everything sort of broke where you thought, oh, this is never going to happen and I'm going to end up, working in a factory or something?
Once I'd written the songs that I thought, this is it, I'd broken through from, 1973, whatever, back to school days. And I had that feeling about me that was, and I'd even written Watch the Moon Come Down, that was on my third album before Howling Wind. So once I'd written those, yes, it was on Stick to Me. It came out 3 albums later after the Howling Wind. I don't know why, because it was obviously good. But yeah, I was once I was certain. I had to.
Yeah, you write in the book about back to school days. This is really original in its own way, and that kind of may have been what spurred me on to really realize I can do this.
Yeah, it did that, and then Don't Ask Me Questions, and somewhere in there, Not If It Pleases Me, taking that idea of blues and throwing in those rare major chords where it's often minor in a song like that. I thought, that's okay. I know I picked it up from blues. It was there all the time, but not. It's just taking the slightly more unusual parts of these influences and grabbing them and using them in my songs that gave them enough freshness for me to be quite sure that this was kosher. It was it wouldn't be denied. Maybe it would have just gone to a minor. There weren't many indie labels then, but there were 1 or 2, and I could have found myself on one of those, and it might be a different story, or it might be exactly the same story. I don't know. So there was there's no guarantees. But I guaranteed myself a good shot at this. I guaranteed myself that.
Yeah. How many songs had you written before Back to School Days?
Oh, hundreds, probably hundreds. I mean, yeah, hundreds.
See, that's what's fascinating about it. Again, like this sort of happens quickly, but you've written hundreds of songs before you get to the one that makes you think this is it.
Yeah, I know. There were plenty before where I thought, okay, I'm onto something. This is getting better and better. Largely in the psychedelic era, because there was so much to express in the psychedelic era after those experiences, and suddenly being a very firm demarcation line between me and my parents' generation. Just drop acid once, that'll do it. Very, very firm demarcation right there. And I knew I had the talent. I could write stuff that was in that kind of shape and form, but. Something in me said, you don't try to get don't try to make it with this stuff. It's not quite prime time, So I just keep writing, just writing, forgetting, chucking away. I got some books with quite a lot of stuff in, but there's a lot that I would have actually thrown out because it's like, oh, that rubbish from 4 years ago, chuck it all. I probably binned it, I think I had a set list that Jay printed as well in the book. I want this book to come out in Kindle, by the way. I think Jay's working on it. I hope
good.
Because for people like me with the eyesight, it's nice to be able to go like that with a page.
There you go. Blow it
instead of the reading glasses and the magnifying glass. But it was one song was called 1978 Space Boy Blues, and I don't have the lyrics to that. I don't think, because Jay was saying that song, I'm afraid, is lost forever. And it wasn't. I wrote it in about 1971 or 72 or something. It was probably a bit Bowie-esque, actually. So it might have been pretty cool.
You could have like a little project where you take titles of songs that you've forgotten and just write new songs with those titles.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea.
If you wrote 1978 Space Boy Blues, I would totally want to hear it.
You totally want to hear it, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is what happens when you get older. You get desperate. You never know, okay? You never know. I might get that desperate one day.
Well, this new Squeeze album that's coming out, it's Difford and Tilbrook have taken these songs that were before the first Squeeze album and they've recorded them for the first time with their, their band that's Squeeze now. I mean, it's just the two of them and other people who weren't in the band back then. But it's his album called Trixie, and it's basically this sort of, it seems like it's almost like a concept record, but it's something they wrote before the first Squeeze record. So I don't know.
Okay.
So I don't know. Would you ever consider doing that? Like,
Well,
I mean, you did re-release the Middlesex demos, but
yeah, I think the Middlesex demos did it for me with that stuff. There's definitely enough there, but I did it, of course, just via the website because I didn't think that was a record company kind of thing particularly. Also, Phonogram released some of the demos from that Marble Arch studio. I went there on my own, and Dave Robinson, my manager, said, "Go there; it's free. Just put down songs from the past." And there's quite a few of the songs on there that were just before my album, and one or two of them are pretty good as well. That record was called "That's When You Know," because that was one of the songs that almost could have been on Howling Wind. It was good enough. And there's other songs on there that weren't good enough. There were bits from the more freak flag flying days that
right.
Lyrically, it's all right, children, it's all right. There's a giveaway right there for you, That might not have been ready for prime time for me, but it was good.
How old were you when you wrote It's All Right, Children?
Oh, it could have been, let's see, Dropping the Acid. I'm trying to think back you have to think back on when you took a lot of things for 4 years. That could have been in 71. That could have been when I was even in Morocco that I had that song.
Yeah.
It could well have been in 71, 72. It's going back a bit. Then.
A young person going, "It's all right, children."
Yeah.
So, but the idea of like taking the selection of your old songs and getting the musicians you like to play with and doing full band new versions of those songs, that's not of interest.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't. The door's not completely closed on anything. There was another song called "Hole in the World." I'm not sure if that came out on something. That's a good one. Actually, me and the Figs were playing it. Me and the band The Figs, we played Hole in the World a few times. We also played, it must be out on something. Someone remind me who's listening to we also played That's When You Know from those Phonogram demo collection. Me and The Figs did that as well. And that's pretty good. So, but yeah, there's not enough of it to make me say, okay, I'm doing a whole album, doing it properly with a band in a studio and releasing it. I don't think there's enough. And, I'm still writing. So you write something new and that kind of usurps those ideas to me. Not writing anywhere near the pace I was even 10 years ago, not even close. But still writing.
Good.
It's very hard to bother, actually, I must admit. Because record sales aren't a thing anymore. So it's not really inspiring when Spotify rates rule your pay. I used to make a very good living, more than good, and wasn't a big star. That's what you could do and be in the middle ground and, get a little certain parts of the charts and you could make a living. I mean, I had royalty checks like eye-watering from publishing, from what I wrote. I wrote this stuff and I made money, but most of it got plowed back into making records or whatever else, but I got a really good life out of it. But that's all gone now, so it's hard to be inspired. It's important to make a living. I'm a working man. That's all I am. I'm just a guy who does a job. You can't do it on Spotify rates. That's the way, and all the rest of the streaming. And it's legal. Hey, thank you. It's legal for them to do that. Yeah, because I embrace every modern form of listening to music, cassettes as well. I didn't say, oh, it's got to be purest vinyl, man. And the same with streaming. I thought, okay, that's the way it's going, but didn't think we'd get screwed as much as sort of 60s black musicians. I didn't think that would happen. I didn't think it would be get past muster with law. But, let's face it, politicians, they don't really care about us. We do it for shits and grins. That's all they think.
Right.
Unless it's Keir Starmer getting free tickets to Taylor Swift, then he takes it seriously. But real artists working very hard, they're not going to confront these streaming platforms and say, okay, you did these great deals for record companies. Why didn't you do them for the people who created the music? How about that for an idea? And get down on these companies. And ASCAP seemed to be powerless to turn it around and make it in our favour instead of the record company's favour. Because the guy in Universal, I was with them in 2014 for the record Mystery Glue with the Rumour.
Right.
I said about the art. Well, do I have to put Spotify here? I mean, these people aren't helping us. Apart from that's great, more people are hearing the music. I like it. Okay, understood. But we need to make a living. We write this. We generate the wealth for the entire industry. The record company boss who fails at the record company and gets a $15 million golden parachute to retire. We do that. Big, small, in between, we generate it. And the guy at Universal in England, this was, said to me, "No, we got to put Spotify on there. We got to put it on there because we got a very good deal from Spotify." And at the time, I thought, "Oh, that's good." Not realizing
they got the good deal
meant the record company. Yeah. Idiots! I'm so naive. So it's sickening, really. But it's not going to change. There's nobody with the will to change it apart from artists talking about it, and we're whatever, just blathering.
Yeah, David Lowery from Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven. He was just like, look, it should be platformed like you do with movies or something, where it comes out as the physical thing, and then maybe 6 months later or a year later, then you start streaming it. But at least have a window where if you really want it, you buy it before it starts on Spotify. The problem is if it's on Spotify or Apple Music the day it comes out, then people are like, oh, I can listen to it. And people like me, I want to own the music that I love, but there are a lot of people who are just like, you're paying those subscriptions.
Yeah. I don't blame them. I'd do the same if I listen to music, but I don't listen to a great deal of music these days. I'd have a streaming thing. I would do. I just don't listen enough. But actually, even if it comes out six months later, you're still not going to sell a great deal of records because that has just gone down anyway.
Right.
Especially if you're in my age group and you weren't a massive star or anything, because your audience tends to die or tends to prefer to listen on streaming because it's so easy. I listen to stuff on YouTube all the time. I'm not paying for it. Yeah. But when I want an album, I buy it on iTunes. At least I'm giving the artist something. I don't stream it. I don't want to hear the whole album on YouTube. I might want to hear a track, and might want to hear one of my songs on YouTube to remind myself, how the hell did that one go? I want to drag it up for doing solo or something. And I go there, it's because my records are in the attic. But yeah, it could have been done so that Daniel Ek didn't become a billionaire. I mean, can't he just be a millionaire, mate, and help us, understand other people want to make a living? Nobody, who makes money wants to be stuck, in the middle millionaire class. That's just not good enough anymore. So when they're onto something like this, God, let's rip everybody off. It doesn't matter.
Well, part of what's sad about this is that you're going to have like your young Graham Parkers out there who are working their jobs in their factories or their gas stations or wherever they have to work because they need to make a living, but they also know that they have this talent and they want to be able to create these albums. And on one hand, with the internet and everything, you could sort of put stuff out, quote unquote, like in a way that you really needed to, deal with companies and stuff in your era. But on the other hand, there's like so few paths to make a living off of it that you could just see that all those artistic voices are not going to get heard.
Yeah, a lot of young people will start with the premise that they're going to make their own records and they're on their laptop or whatever, or do it as cheaply as possible, and really focus on digital. They're going to focus on it because that's the name of the game for getting your songs out there. I've made a few records. The COVID years, I wrote 2 songs, Humans of the Mutant Virus and 3D Printer. And I said, well, I'm not going to put this out on a record. I'm not going to put it out on a single or a CD or any, it's 2 songs. I just said to the record company, stream it. That's it. Stream it only. I'm totally not against it whatsoever. And I did it knowing there's no money in it, but I wanted to get the songs out there. So I can see that use for it. But when you put a whole album out and most people might listen to it on streaming platforms, they're not paying you, And when they say, oh, yeah, I love the new album, it means they listen to one track on streaming. That's what you need to do. Oh, yeah, very good. So, but that's, I understand that totally. I just come from an era where listening to an album was an immersive experience, and that's in the past for most people, and that's understandable. You got to move on. I understand it.
And you've got a live album, actually, Five Old Souls.
Five Old Souls was the Gold Tops live, and probably one of my best, if not the best, live albums I think ever of my career. I've got one with the same group, but this time with the Ladybugs. It won't be out for you. I'm not even. I don't know whether the record company haven't told me to talk about it yet, but we can give a little hint. Live album, Graham Parker and the Gold Tops with the Ladybugs, two backing singers, live from the last tour that we did, professionally recorded, which was 3 years ago, I think now, 2 or 3 years ago, in the UK. And yeah, keep your eye out for that. Hopefully I'll have some vinyl copies by the time I get into America, doing the solo shows that I've got coming up, starting the end of April. But also that Jay, who wrote the book, Jay Nachman, is going to be getting to a load of those gigs with copies of the book to sell. So that's the focus at the moment.
And Jay, if you're listening, you got to come out to Evanston and sell some books here.
Well, I don't know whether he's going to be flying.
Well, he should. He should, absolutely.
Yes, he should. Come on.
Absolutely. Come on. I've been to Philly. You should come out here. So.
Anything that saves me lugging books around. I can't stand this selling yourself like a full of brush salesman. No, thank you. So I've done it before, though. I've exploited it before, but it's not my kind of thing. And Jay is, I'm very grateful that he's going to come to quite a bunch of East Coast gigs when he can and move some books, which is brilliant.
So going back to when you're writing these hundreds of songs, before you even get to back to school days, how are you writing them? Is this like you and a guitar every day and with a notebook to the side, or just how did it work?
Yeah, it's the same as it is now. Really crude. I sit hunched over a guitar in an extremely uncomfortable position. I think it's something to do with you got to be in pain to do your work properly. I don't know.
There you go.
Or at least mild discomfort. Let's put, I might have a nice warm cup of cocoa next to me, but there you go. You got to have something. And it's the same process. What I do is play songs and play things wrong deliberately. That's how I get a lot of stuff. I play a chord the wrong way by dropping a note here and there and doing something unusual, and that kicks it in. So some of the songs are just straight up, a G, an E minor, a C, G, and to D and back again. Some of them are like that, and they're totally, fully grown and total songs using those. But a lot of the time I add little chord things in that are subtle in some ways, but they're in the final program when the record is recorded, they are not subtle to me. All the musicians, they know they're there. Accents, slightly different ways of playing the chords. One chord can change an atmosphere directly by playing it slightly different. And playing something totally wrong, it's like, that's totally wrong and it sounds great, something discordant, for instance. So those things are there, and they just come out on me due to frustration of, okay, this is boring. Anyone can do this. Anyone can do something. And I just play something wrong. So it takes a bit of time, and when that goes, it's like, oh, thankful. I'm so thankful for bad mistakes and bad sort of phrasings, because they kick in different rhythmic structures or different melodic structures for me to inspire me to keep going with the song,
So do the words and phrases then kind of come out of whatever mood you're coming up with musically, or do you sort of sit down and think, you know what, I'd like to write a song about this, and then you start playing it and then it all kind of comes together?
Yeah, it's rare that I do. I mean, I'll have a lyric sometimes. There was a song I remember distinctly. There's many examples of this, but one was when I was writing the songs for Three Chords Good, the Rumour reunion album,
right?
Whenever it came out, 2012 or something, wasn't it? And I was driving around upstate New York in Hudson Valley there in New York, and I was in writing mode. I was inspired. I'd written some of the songs, and I was really getting there. I think it was before I'd reformed the Rumour, though. It was probably just leading up to that as I was collecting the songs that I was writing. And I was in the car, and a distinct rhythm came to me, and a few words, and it went dum dum dum. Ba-bum, ba-bum. You don't have to live in shadows. You don't have to lie yourself up in. I thought, boom, get home quick. Stop the shopping. It's a terrible thing to not bring the groceries home. But I had to. I got home and picked up the guitar, and thankfully, it all made sense and it was all good. And that started the song off from just that little bit. I'd been driving home going, ba-bum, 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 with the steering wheel. Get home. It's really annoying, man. It's really messy.
So you didn't like sing it into your like voice memos on your phone or something like that?
No, I didn't. I don't think I was using them then. My phone was probably cruder, or I didn't know it was on there. Now I do that. If I wake up in the middle of the night, naked and go into the room where my guitars are. Not a pretty sight, but I sometimes do it at 4 a.m. and I go, quick, put that down. And I put it down, and sometimes the next day it's like, that's awful. I mean, that's so bloody obvious, Graham. And sometimes it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, that's why I got up. I've got tons of them now, bits of them. But it's a dual process of songs and music a great deal of the time. But maybe more than anything, though, a phrase starts it off, which might not be the phrase that turns out being the song title at all. It might not even appear in the song. But that kicks me to pick up the guitar, because I think it's a good phrase, and it turns out to be awful. It turns out to be really cliche or something, not a good cliche. I had one the other day, and I wrote the title down on my iPad. This is now. I wrote the title down. It just came to me. And the page is blank apart from 2 words. Write this. That's it. And I probably never will. But,
a phrase will suggest a rhythm a lot of the time, so that can get you going too.
Yeah, you think that can work, and that might be totally the wrong rhythm in the end. I might be dissatisfied with it and go somewhere else. Then I might write the whole song and write 2 other versions of it. I've done that a few times. 1 or 2 other versions, completely different versions. And the one that's the best, it feels natural. I was like, okay, I'll go for that one. That's the one. And rewrites, redrafts, like writing fiction, like writing prose or something, that comes into it. And some songs come out, boom, one go. Very rarely, but they do. And they're often... Then I don't think that makes them any more special than the others. Some people think that would make them more unique or more real, but no, it just makes them a good song like the other ones are, that you have to work for months or years, even years sometimes. There's some songs I work for years on and then dump them and just put them aside and carried on writing new songs. And then they've come back to me and I thought, I know that's good. What do I do with it? How do I... And I've done something like play the wrong chord in the wrong place. And suddenly, there it is, man, all those years later.
Right.
That happened to me with Don't Let It Break You Down. I had that for years, the 3-chord groove. It's like a D, a G, and going through an A back to the D. It very much Lou Reed. And I thought, well, and I couldn't get anywhere with it because I thought, well, Lou Reed could pull this off in a monotone. I couldn't. Monotone, I can't pull that off completely. I don't think so anyway. And so I kept putting it away. This I wrote it probably in the 70s even. I had the riff, the groove, and it wasn't until 1988, Mona Lisa's Sister, just before then, that I finally realised I went to a totally wrong key, a D minor. Literally, what if I dropped to a D minor in the middle of that? You're not expecting it in that 3-chord, dum 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 dum, all major chords. Suddenly, the chorus went. It came from, it ain't necessary. It's like, don't let it break you down. Don't let it break you down. There's 2 minors there. They shouldn't be there. It's a bit like, it reminded me of Porgy and Bess. It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily. I even got the keyboard player to play. Do, 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 on that bit. And that made the song, oh, now I've got it. I just need a lyric for the first part, which was not a good lyric because it wasn't inspired enough. Now it is. Oh, you got to go around the houses, man. This is a job of work, I tell you what.
There you go.
It makes you sweat bullets. It's the hardest job I've ever done. I've dug ditches and all, done a lot of physical work in my time. This is the hardest, no question about it.
You know, the Mona Lisa Sister, you had said to me when we talked a few years ago that it was the first time to you that it was about the singer, the song, and the guitar, and not like all this other stuff. And that you'd said that previously, Squeezing Out Sparks, there was some semblance of an actual singing voice, I think is what you said. There was semblance of an actual singing voice. Yeah. And the Mona Lisa Sister was the first time it was really about the singer, song, and guitar. And that you found it sort of unpleasant to go back to, you know, like the earlier records like Howlin Wind. Does it, because your singing was too, quote, nasty. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I did feel like that. It was like, oh, God, listen to me. And now I can sing, man. I can sing. Forget all that old stuff. Now I'd listen back on it and it doesn't do that to me. It doesn't make me upset. It's like, okay, it's pretty good for what it is. That's all I think now. Because I had to listen to Howlin Wind a bit to make sure I got the lyrics right. I wasn't going to trust all lyrics or Genius lyrics site. I wasn't going to quite trust those. Some of them are pretty good. That was the period when this is who I am. I am actually a singer-songwriter. I was recording Mona Lisa's Sister, a lot of the tracks, just me and the drummer. I said, I want to keep everybody out of this. Just me live with the acoustic guitar and the drums, and then Andrew, the bass player, go in, play your bit, and Brinsley, put some guitar on that. Keep it minimal, which does not work for my songs. I like dense music. I have a lot of things going on, like a real dense album with 2-3 guitars. That's really more to my taste. But Mona Lisa's Sister came out good, and it's just sounded kind of fresh and different. And boom.
So going back to Howlin Wind for this project, was that hard for you to sort of go back and listen to, or did you sort of mellow toward it as you kind of remembered everything that got you to that place and what an important record it was?
No, it was all right. It was enjoyable, really, up to a point when but you have to listen twice. Oh my God, I got to go back there again. But basically, I do quite a good deal of Howlin Wind songs these days. There probably would have been a time in the 80s when I stayed away from them quite a bit when the Mona Lisa Sister tour was going on. I don't think there were many, if any, Howlin Wind songs, but maybe questions. Don't ask me questions. I don't feel as though I'm, indebted to any of my records. It's not like when you have a massive hit single, and it really is the one that most people who don't know your albums, don't know your music, but they know that song, they are going to expect that song. So I don't have any of those. And still people expect songs, but they should understand I've made a lot of records, man. I've made it. Sure. Don't expect the one you think is great and think, oh, he's going to do that. He's got to do that. I mean, Local Girls, a lot of people call out for that solo. Don't blame them. But I don't play it now solo because it's like a big weight on me because it's a 4/4 beat and I can't find any other way of doing it. It's a boom, jagga, boom, jagga. It's just like I get worn out halfway through it. Plus, my fingers are really messed up. I can tell you, there's not too many years of this going to go on now because I've got some real issues with hands.
Sorry.
But yeah, it happens. Martin Belmont was saying to me, I can't do a bar chord effectively now because this finger is like bent out of shape. I mean, look at these fingers. They're all over the place, And I had a few falls and what have you. And but most people hear me playing, they don't know. But I've had to relearn a few things, and it's not been easy. So as I say, you also lose a couple of band members. You feel your mortality is creeping up on you. I mean, let's be unrealistic about it, Die already, Parker, for God's sake, get me out of this. It's tiring. Anyway, but no, don't. So I think, please come and see me when you can. Okay, let's put it that way. Not dead yet, just a flesh wound. Don't worry. I think I'm a pretty feisty guy. I'll carry on. But, it's a bit frustrating when you don't enjoy rehearsing so much, because of what you have to go through to get your hands in shape and all that. But hearing me play, most people will know they won't notice it. That's it, I don't think.
Yeah, you sounded great the last time I saw you. Do you enjoy the touring? I mean, are you doing this because you love it?
No. I do it solo because I'd like to make a living as a working man for a working man's wages after tax and the agent's fees and whatever else. That's about all it is. But I like to do it to be a working man. Playing with a band now, it's break even if I'm lucky, and I leave that to younger people who have to do that. I don't. So, yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to. Don't never say never, okay? But yeah, no, I don't like doing it. I don't like touring. No, it's brutality on a stick to me, basically, and everything about it is stressful leading up to it, and all the things that have to be done. I have to keep on top of the agents so they don't do something stupid and put me on 5 shows in a row singing. That's not good, the voice. I'm good, but I need, there's that. It was like Ozzy, remember the Ozzy Osbourne show? He said, I've told him once, I've told him twice. One day on, one day off. I'm not doing Albuquerque. And the next scene is him saying, hello, Albuquerque, because his missus has convinced him he's got to do Albuquerque. So I try to control the tours because they'll have you anywhere, the agents. They'll put you in Alaska one day and Japan the next. They'll just, oh, you should be able to make it all right, And they think I get up at 6 a.m. like they do. No. I don't want to be up at 6 a.m.
Right.
No,
you just played a show the previous night. So.
I don't want to do that drive. No, I want to have a long, leisurely breakfast. Get up around 10, just get down to the Holiday Inn breakfast room before 10:30. Come on, don't bug me with all that. 8 hours, no biggie. That was the past. Did it all. Great fun when you're young. But I'll tell you what it is. There's no doubt about this. The enjoyment comes when I've got a good audience in front of me. When I've got a good house, they know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. I get a good sound that's not problematic. I'm into it. That's when the joy comes from all of this. And I still get that. I love it. I still love that. They're laughing at the jokes. They're coming into the show with me. They're digging it, There's nothing like getting the feedback from an audience. It's an amazing thing. So I still love that part about it. People caring about it and enjoying what I'm putting out there, So that makes up for all the rest of the bullshit,
You're in a job that it sounds like you don't want to retire. Like there are people who retire at your age, and you're not retiring because you still see yourself as a working man. Is that because of the job or because of just your mindset as, no, I'm just going to keep working. That's what I do.
Oh yeah, and I pick up the guitar when I'm off work, and I know I've got no tours planned to start playing. And I feel, oh yeah, that feels pretty good. And then I start writing a set list, a couple of songs. That's all I need to. Yeah, and a song I haven't done for 10 years. Like I've got one or two on the current set list that I'm working on. It's just early days still, and I'm inspired, and then I foolishly talk to my agent. Then all bets are off, man. You only need to open the door a crack, and they're in. So I also, people and agents don't let you retire. I mean, it's hard to retire in this world. They don't want you to retire, which is fabulous. Thank you. I mean, you gotta feel lucky for that.
Yeah. But you obviously, I mean, this isn't just sort of, punching the clock and start using the metal press stamper or something. Like you're definitely getting, even though it's a pain in the ass, you're also getting a lot back from it. It sounds like.
I get a huge amount back from it. Yeah, there's no question about it. I wouldn't do it if not. If going on stage was a misery. I mean, awful. What an awful thing. No, thank you, sir. No, I'm smiling all the way through it most nights. I'm quite happy, This is really good. What a thing. I feel forever grateful and lucky, really.
People always say you sort of takes a lifetime to make the first album, and then you got like 6 months to make the second one. Is that how it felt for you? Like, do you feel like there's this kind of like this whole lifetime that went into that first record, and does it have a special place for you because of that, or do you kind of look back on it like, yeah, that was the first of many records that mean a lot to me?
Well, I never thought it was the first of many when I started. No, I didn't look that far. I looked as far as getting a record deal. And, what if I got a great band, a really good band behind me who really dig what I'm doing and understand how to play it? That was the next, that was there as well. But I didn't think any further than the first album. And most people don't come up with 2 albums in the first year of their career or in any year of their career. There's a few who've come up with 2 albums in a year. There's definitely some, but so that was quite unusual that I could pull it off because, yeah, your whole life is in the first record. It's all built up to that. And there I was already 24, growing into 25. So, wow. I didn't think following up. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it at all. I just wanted that album done. And once I did, and I saw the success coming, and so many people were like, especially critics, were like, "Oh, finally something fresh, something new, something a bit pissed off as well." They weren't used to it, and it was like they were behind me. It was very good. So that's when I suppose, okay, then I was probably scribbling down things. I couldn't help myself. So it was what can you say? It was inevitable, not my choice. I have to make more records. There you go.
Yeah, because Heat Treatment came out what?
October.
Yeah, so April and October. So we're talking 6 months apart. Those records literally were.
That was it. Yeah, that was basically the program in Britain. Howlin Wind came out in April '76. Came out a bit later in America, but 2 albums, very short period of time.
And did you write most of Heat Treatment after you finished recording Howlin Wind, or were these songs?
Oh, yeah. I had nothing. My manager, Dave, saying, "I think we should follow this album up quickly with another one." I was like, "Oh, right. I got nothing. I got a few old bits from the hippie era, but I don't know how I did it, man. I really don't know."
But again, that is fascinating because you've written these hundreds of songs. You do Howlin Wind, and then 6 months later, boom, there's like a new record.
Yeah, new record. I knew I couldn't go back in time and find somewhere there's a recording or something of 1978 Spaceboy Blues. I think I got to get that song. I got to remember that. Search for the lyrics. I might need it.
And you went in with a different producer. You had Mutt Lange produced that, and Nick Lowe produced the first one.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of stuff to change and have to do in 6 months.
Yeah, I was up for progressing very, very quickly. And I still have that feeling I'll make a new record, and not long after that, I'm thinking, I've got to wipe out the memory of that record. Start writing new songs, man. It's one of those things. It's disposable, but it turns out it's not disposable in the end. But that's the feeling I have. Otherwise, I wouldn't be driven forward. I wouldn't have been driven forward all those years of my career to write the next record. I've been fairly prolific, I should say.
Absolutely. Knowing that you had the Rumour there to record that next record and the ones after that, did that change how you wrote and approached those songs then?
No, it was all still me on my own. The same thing.
It wasn't like, this is going to sound great, being played by these guys, so I need to write a harder rocker for this record or anything.
Well, no. After I'd written them, I thought, well, they're going to do this fine, no problem. I was already in gear for songs that needed to be played by a very accomplished and soulful band. So the songs for Heat Treatment, it was nothing like me saying, "Oh, will the Rumour be able to do this? Is this the right thing? Should I get another band?" No, it was nothing like that. Yeah, it was going to work.
And then Squeezing Out Sparks was the first one that didn't have all the horns on it.
Yeah, that's all right. The songs didn't scream horns, apart from one song, Mercury Poisoning, which wasn't good enough to be on the album, in my feeling. And the other one that didn't have horns in it either, Crawling from the Wreckage, which I didn't think was right for the album because it was too R&B, and we were doing something else altogether with Squeezing Out Sparks. So Martin Belmont, guitarist, when I was playing it to him and playing it to the band, I was thinking, I don't think I want to go through with this. And Martin said, "I'll get that. Do a cassette and give it to Dave Edmunds."
Right.
And that worked out very well.
So it was Crawling from the Wreckage did you write that for Squeezing Out Sparks?
At the same time. Nothing's written particularly for an album. It's just that they were written at the same time, more or less, as Squeezing Out Sparks. And, I sort of got a sense that they should be sort of peripheral, off to the side.
How did you enjoy hearing, Dave Edmunds and Rockpile, and you got Nick Lowe there on bass playing that song? I mean, that's a pretty great version of that record, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dave Edmunds did Back to School Days as well, and as you know, played on the track because the Dave Robinson, the Brinsley Schwarz guys, and they all knew Dave Edmunds. I think some of them had backed him. They backed him. He'd done one of their records, I think. So he was a known quantity, and I'd always loved everything he'd done. I thought he was a genius guitarist and a great singer. Not a songwriter, again. He would do cover versions and just spectacular. So to have him on Howlin Wind in the studio, on the one hand, it was pretty incredible. On the other hand, I took it for granted. I thought, yeah, good musicians like this will be attracted to me. They know I'm good. So what's the big deal? It was like I just took it, and then he did the songs, and I thought, well, that's a no-brainer as well. Of course, a few people are going to do some of my songs. They know they're good. They know they can do them. I mean, it was right up Dave's street. Both of those songs, Crawling and School Days.
So no seller's remorse, like, oh, Crawling from the Wreckage, I should have held on to that one because.
No, it sold well as well. I remember seeing royalty statements at the time. It was a perennial seller, that one. He did well, Dave, with that Rockpile stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a great song.
Great outfit,
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's really wonderful to talk to you again. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you back here in Evanston at Space.
I've got Olympic fever, man.
What's your favorite event on that?
Oh, best question of the day. Snowboard cross. Insane. Okay. Absolutely love it. Unfortunately, I've got a bit hooked on curling on this Olympics. I've tried to stay away from it for years, but now I'm hooked on curling. God damn it. But basically, I think I like the big air on the snowboard and the skis as well. A bit of slalom, but snowboard cross and short track.
The short track's insane.
Yeah, the short track, what is it? It's ice skating. Short track skating, yeah. Absolutely bonkers. Fantastic. Snowboard cross, wild. Love it. So I'm watching a lot of other stuff that I'm not that keen on, but that's my favorite. Thank you for asking, man.
Sure. I was watching the half pipe the other day, and it was like snowing, the women's half pipe, and they all kept wiping out, and it was like the most painful thing because you'd see them. There was this one American, and she went through this whole routine to get herself in the right mindset, and then would just like wipe out on the first jump. All three of her tries. I was like, oh man, this is like a brutal business here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they fall from a terrific height, and mostly just get up again. But spectacular. I can't even imagine. I mean, I got good at skiing from living in upstate and getting midweek ski pass every year. I'd have to do the diamond slopes and up there a bit. But
oh wow, okay.
But that was just casual skiing. It was just me and just enjoying it immensely. But just. The hand grabs and the spinning and stuff is just beyond my understanding of physics, let alone anything else. So that's good stuff as well, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much, Graham, and I'll talk to you and see you soon.
All right, Mark. Cheers, man.
That's it for episode 214 of Caropop. Thanks so much to Graham Parker for taking us back to his early days and giving such a vivid sense of what it took to launch him as an artist. Thanks also to Jay Nachman for his excellent book, Graham Parker's Howlin Wind, and for being a longtime Caropop booster. You could read more about the book at grahamparker.net, jaynachman.com, Nachman is Nachman, and grahamparkershowlinwind.net. The book is available on Amazon. Also, check Parker's website for upcoming tour information. His 2026 U.S. solo tour begins April 23rd in Bay Shore, New York, and wraps up May 30th in Sebastopol, California. I'll be seeing him May 23rd at Space in Evanston. Follow Parker on X at @XGrahamParker, and he's also got a Graham Parker official Facebook page and YouTube channel. Caropop is produced by Chris Swake, who, between you and me, does a great job of this silly thing. Thanks to all who support Caropop. If you'd like to throw something into the Caropop kitty, we'd be much appreciative, and I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Please go to caropop.com. Thanks so much for listening and being here. I'm Mark Caro. Please follow Caropop on the so-called socials at Caropopcast. You can follow me as well at Mark Caro at MarkCaro. Please share this episode, subscribe here and on YouTube, tell your friends, and return next week for another Caropop conversation. Thanks.